this module is all about using our shapes and layers and frames in an advanced way to really master Figma. And I can't close this module off without actually showing you some more advanced tips when it comes to the shapes that we have in here. So as you know, you can draw rectangles, oval shapes, and so on. If we draw a circle like this, there are actually advanced options in here that can help you create arcs. So you can easily create pie charts in Figma just by doing that. You can also grab some of these other items to create more interesting shapes. You can actually, this is kind of fun to play around with, but use this to create any kind of sweep. And yeah, it's really advanced, it's really fun, and it can save you a lot of time when you're designing graphs, which is something that you might be doing when you're doing UI. So that's one thing I wanted to share with you. The other things are all connected to how to manipulate layers better. So if we draw something like a rectangle, and you know that there are Boolean options available to you when you're using Figma, but did you know that depending on how you do things, so for example, if we go in here and create a union out of these two rectangles, that we can still expand them and we can still dive in deeper into the building blocks of this main layer. And if we play around with things in here, it's actually going to affect everything, including the layers inside. And it's going to kind of create an interesting shape because all of the overlaps, like all of the places where one dot would appear inside of this shape, all of them are now rounded in a sense. And if I move this layer inside and kind of position it differently, you can really see how we can get some liquefying shape as well in here too. That doesn't mean that I can't go inside and even change this further to like something like this, because you can always manipulate shapes inside as well. So it's just something fun to keep in mind. And if you don't want to allow further editing of shapes like this, where if I hit enter on the main union frame, it's going to take me into the layers inside, and you can now see that they are still kind of separate shapes in a sense. If I don't want them to be separate shapes anymore, I can always go in here and kind of flatten this selection, and then it's going to be just one shape that I can't edit anymore. And if I hit enter, it's actually going to show me all of those dots that appeared inside of the shape, and they're kind of creating the shape. So if I hit in here, you can see that it now has mirroring lines that are affecting how curved this part of the shape is, and you can manipulate it further to create and draw something more interesting. I'm not sure how far you're gonna go with illustration as a designer, especially if you're a beginner. Maybe you're gonna more manipulate illustrations that someone else did, but all of these things can help you actually draw inside Figma and create elements that are maybe going to be needed for some of those projects. So you can see how you can basically go in and manipulate each of these lines that goes outside of this one dot that's a building element of this union. You can also switch the mirroring options in here and kind of force all of these lines to mirror angle and length as well. And you can see how I've created a really complex shape just by doing that. So those are some of the more advanced things when it comes to manipulating shapes. It's really important to keep in mind, if you have just one single shape, if you hit enter, you can go inside, click on any of these, round them as you like, and then you can always go to objects and flatten this shape, or use Command E to do so. And now, since it's flattened, you now have all of those kind of building blocks in here. If I go in here and kind of do the same thing, now you're going to see that some of these lines have changed a little bit based on what I did. So yeah, keep that in mind. You can go really, really advanced when it comes to shapes in Figma, and you can really manipulate them as you like. And when you're doing unions, they're not going to be as destructive as a union operation might be in some other apps. And you're gonna still have the control of all of these items in here, and you can kind of move it around just the same way as we did previously. But as soon as you flatten the shape, then it becomes its own vector, and you're no longer able to edit any of those things as easily, but you can go inside and you now have more control over all of those building dots that this shape has, that are kind of mathematical lines that we use to draw this shape. So keep that in mind. It's really powerful, and you can play around with it to create something really interesting that can be a decorative element often in user interface design.